My name is Ashley Betancourt, and on behalf of the Rhode Island Water Resources Center, I'm here with Senator Whitehouse to discuss our state's water quality and quantity concerns. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Ashley. It's good to be here with you at
It's
URI.
a pleasure to have you. The first thing I'd really like to talk about, because it really hits home for us in our center, is the reauthorization of the Water Resources Research Act. Can you tell me about it?
I absolutely can. The center here is supported by federal funding, and the federal funding is authorized by the Water Resources Research Act, and every couple of years it is due for reauthorization. The old authorization expires, and that expiry is upon us, and so it is important that the authorization be redone. Now, I want to reassure anybody who is listening that that doesn't mean that if we don't reauthorize it, that the Water Resources Center closes down.
That's good to know.
The money can still be appropriated and sent, and the center can continue to flourish and operate. But the authorization, when it's redone, it allows for new initiatives, new purposes, expanded initiatives to be added. And so it's good practice for us to be reauthorizing regularly.
Of course.
My colleague from Maryland, Senator Cardin, has sponsored the reauthorization in the past, and I'm a co-sponsor with him of that bill. And we hope that we're going to be able to get it done.
As do we.
But the environment in Washington is not conducive right now to getting a lot of things done, and but it will calm down, and we're going to be working very hard to make sure that at a minimum the appropriations continue, and best case scenario we get a quick and smooth reauthorization.
Okay. And also on behalf of our center, I know I'm hitting you with this right at the beginning, but if you could summarize what our state's water concerns are, the biggest ones, the biggest issues that we're facing today. Give me a bullet list.
It's pretty significant. We're not as badly off as some of the western states where access to water is a real issue and competition over water resources is a constant battle.
So it's quality that we're concerned with, not quantity.
So here it's mostly quality, although in the South County area there is concern about how much we can draw on the aquifer, and you know, there are times when people have to have no watering days on lawns and things like that.
Bans during the summer.
So there's some availability issues and some supply issues. But we also have very significant issues with treatment. Our combined sewer overflows, which means the rain in the streets goes down under the curb and in with the sewage.
Yes.
And the whole thing goes out together to the sewage treatment plant. And when a big storm comes, there's so much water in there that it overloads the capacity of the sewage treatment plant. So for a long time what we did was we bypassed the sewage treatment plant and washed
straight to the
raw
oceans.
sewage straight out into the bay and into the oceans. And so that's a big problem, well on its way to being fixed with the Narragansett Bay Commission and the combined sewer overflow. Biggest public works project in Rhode Island history was done to cure that.
When did that begin?
That began, I would say 15 to 20 years ago.
Okay, so we've known it's been a problem for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because more and more the bay was having to be closed to swimming and to shellfishing as we became better and more attentive at measuring what we were dumping into it. And once we really saw what an effect it was having in the bay on our shellfishermen, on sailors, on swimming, on all of that, exactly, it became a very significant priority. So that's been a very big issue. And then the other, I think, major issue that we have to concern ourselves with is that the climate is changing, and we are getting more major precipitation storms. I don't think that the events of a year ago, where we saw such terrible flooding around Rhode Island, are a 100-year anomaly. I think it's going to be happening more and more.
Agreed.
And that means that the nearly 700 dams that we have here in Rhode Island, many of which are very, very old, many of which are above highly populated areas, and all of which need to be inspected by one remaining employee dam inspector.
Oh, really? That's something I had never heard
of.
That's something kept hush-hush.
Yeah, so we've got a real issue with dams and having to get them properly maintained. So if I had to put the sort of top categories, there's a constant concern about enough water and access to supply, but the getting it cleaned so that it's not damaging the bay,
Stormwater treatment, making sure it doesn't run off into inappropriate areas.
And then the dams, making sure that we're safe from really, nobody died in the last major floods. We were lucky, and that's because all of the major dams held.
And so what are you doing, or what are you pushing to get dams repaired before possibly our next flood?
Well, we're trying to find additional funding. It's mostly a state responsibility. And like every other state, the state of Rhode Island is having real budget troubles.
Okay.
And so it's very hard to find money for anything, particularly new projects. And enhancing the dam inspections would be a new project. We're working with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which evaluates the big dams that provide hydropower and that are on the major rivers, and that, but they have traditionally only helped with examination of their licensed dams, and ours in Rhode Island tend to be smaller than that. And so we're working with them to see if they'd be willing to look at certain things. We're trying to establish a global way of trying to get permits to do things with our dams, whether it's removing them or fixing them or putting a fish ladder up by them or a canoe passage so canoeists can get by, or any of those things, so that you can do it all at once, so that it's not such a complicated federal bureaucratic procedure. And once we've got that, then there's an argument to be made, well, they're all federal licensed dams now because we have this procedure that would allow them all to be treated at once. So we're doing a lot of argument right now, trying to make that happen, and knocking on all the doors that we can. There are different ways of just bringing federal resources to help support the state solve this problem, because it's a significant problem for the state.
A large problem for the state, especially with such a small state and almost 700 dams, you said?
Yeah. And unlike western states, where you tend to have dams in faraway places on big rivers that flow through wide open spaces.
Ours flow through our cities, our small towns.
Ours flow through our cities.
It's where our main streets are.
Yep. Yeah. And our cities and our small towns tend to have been built on those rivers back from the days of water power and mills.
I wish we could reincorporate water power today. It seems like it's far-fetched almost.
Well, licensing microhydro is one of the things that we're looking at doing in the dams bill that I'm working on. So that's one of the many uses that these dams can be put to. Some of them are really pretty wonderful assets. They back up ponds that people live on and that people can go out and canoe and fish on.
I certainly think of them aesthetically. It's definitely part of our culture here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, very much. And there are hundreds of them.
Yes, there are. And there are other things that we'd like to talk about, such as the new infrastructure, the green infrastructure. I'm not clear on the topic, but I thought maybe you could clarify it for me. It has to do with stormwater retention and runoff, and adding sort of rain gardens so that not all of that water does go to our stormwater systems. So it's almost, if we had appropriate technology, such as so the water actually infiltrated, we wouldn't have such a problem in Providence anyway with the combined sewer system.
Yes, there are a couple of aspects to the problem. One is that we have so much paved surface that the water runs across it and ends up in the gutters and in the ditches and in the combined sewer overflow. If you had more permeable surfaces, roof gardens, things like that, then it gets absorbed and then goes back up into the atmosphere again and doesn't burden the system so badly. The bill that I have worked on, the Green Water Infrastructure Act, is to make the sewage treatment and the water treatment facilities more energy efficient. And to allow the municipalities that manage those treatment facilities, usually municipalities, to get access to money so they can make the capital changes, put in the new equipment, the new engines, the more efficient mechanisms.
All the upfront costs.
All the upfront costs. And then over the years to come, they have the benefit of lower utility bills. But what a lot of municipalities find, like a lot of families, is that sure, there are a lot of energy savings that they could have if they could put $30,000 up front into green architecture, for instance. I know you're interested in that. But they don't have the $30,000. And so month after month, they pay a high utility bill that they could have avoided because there isn't an efficient way of bringing all those savings now into the present to take advantage of them, and that's what this would do.
For my own curiosity, and it's certainly not something that you have to answer on officially, but is this something, would it be some sort of a loan or a grant? Is it something that they could eventually pay back, or would it be just...
The way these things usually work is with revolving funds and low-interest loans. So you pay back over time, and that way you get the money up front, and you can match the savings
you reap the
to
rewards
the payments.
and you pay it back.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds
and with any luck, you actually
very
come
intelligent.
out ahead.
Ahead, hopefully. That is the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay, and other things that we'd like to talk about. We've hit dams, we've hit stormwater retention, is WRDA, which is, you tell me what this is. That way I don't tongue-tie myself.
The WRDA bill, the Water Resources Development Act, is the big bill. It's supposed to pass maybe every 2 years, but there have been a lot of stalls recently, and there's only been, I think, one in the last 10 years.
Okay.
That is the big bill that funds the Army Corps of Engineers across the country for specific projects state by state. Here are the things that we need done, that the Army Corps is the organization that's supposed to do them, and this is how we put the funding out there. And so with the water and wastewater infrastructure of the country as bad as it is, we have, I think according to the Environmental Protection Agency, I'm not going to get the exact number, but it's about $600 billion worth of delayed and inadequate infrastructure for water and wastewater treatment.
Renovations that need to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a lot of work. And in the economy that we're in right now, that could be a lot of jobs.
Yes, it could.
And because we need it anyway, it's really important that we get it done. And so the WRDA bill that pushes the money to the Army Corps of Engineers so that they can get these jobs out is really vital. And we want very much to get to work on one. The ranking member on the Environment and Public Works Committee is a gentleman from Oklahoma named James Inhofe, and he and the chairman, Barbara Boxer, are pretty strong antagonists of one another on environmental issues. But where it comes to construction and building issues and public works issues, they work together very well. So they set their fight aside about whether climate change is real and all of that, and they really work well on this. So I hope that we can get a good WRDA bill done fairly soon, and that should bring considerable work out into the country and into our economy.
And you believe in Rhode Island also?
Absolutely.
Do you have any specific examples of how this could impact Rhode Island?
What we do is we go through the different municipalities. We go to the Clean Water Finance Agency. We go to the Narragansett Bay Commission, and we say, okay, what do you need? And we work to put together essentially a reverse shopping list.
Okay.
And then we take it to the Army Corps, and they have a procedure where they evaluate it first.
Okay.
And once they've evaluated and done the planning, it then moves into a construction stage. And so we shepherd it through those stages, and then it ends up being a project that I was just up in Woonsocket talking to Mayor Fontaine, and he has an idea for a link that would connect Woonsocket and Pawtucket and allow them to utilize water far more efficiently and give new resources to some of the southern areas that they are now reaching from further south.
And that's something that the Army Corps of Engineers
It's that kind of thing that you would put onto their docket.
That certainly clarifies it for me.
So they're big projects, and they're earth-moving projects and building things projects and putting construction people to work projects and keeping our water cleaner, both drinking water and sewage treatment. So that's, good quality of life results as well.
Okay. And is there anything else that in particular you would like to talk about to do with fresh water in our state?
Yeah, I think the other issue that we have to face is that the climate really is changing. These storms really are happening more frequently. It really doesn't matter where you look, but we're certainly seeing it with increased precipitation in New England. So we're going to see more flooding. And that means that we have to go back and look at all of the floodplains and all of the mapping that has been done about what parts of Rhode Island are in danger of flooding and what aren't.
We certainly have a new idea of that from last year.
We have a new idea of that. I remember sitting with Mayor Fung in Cranston, and they brought out the maps. The water was still all over Cranston, and they were bringing over the maps, and they were going around with markers showing the high points where it had reached. And in some places, it had reached over the 500-year flood line.
Okay.
And
certainly unexpected.
maybe that was a once in every 500-year flood, but more likely we need to readjust those
We had
flood
mismapped
lines.
those points.
Yeah, so we need to redo the mapping, and that's going to be an important public safety issue for the state, and we're working with the Army Corps and the EPA on getting that done.
Okay. Well, I think that about covers a lot of topics for today, and I greatly appreciate your time here.
Good. It's good to be with you, Ashley, and I appreciate the work of the Water Resources Center here at the University of Rhode Island.
And we appreciate you trying to reauthorize our bill.
Absolutely. And I know you are closing in on graduation, which is always a great time at URI, and it's graduation for you in particular.
A week and a half left for school classes.
There you go. A lot of happy students getting ready to go on with their lives.
Yeah, about 27 days until actual graduation. Not that I'm counting.
Not that you're counting. I wish you well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley.